Hey, it is Zennial Gamer here today with some Legend Interserver Guild War ISGW. It is rank 1 versus rank 2. It's going to be Mythril versus SSA. So, I've got my 10 attacks here on video for you guys. The first attack you guys can see, just watch this Nagong by the way. Just watch this Nagong. This is absolutely insane. So this is against Heaven's Royalty. We took the Gany Rica in against Nagong Dominic. Might have to speed this up just a little bit because I think I played this a little bit slow. But I just want you guys to watch this Nagong at the start. I think the Nagong gets reset on turn 1 and procs back to the skill 3. It's like an 8-turn cooldown and it's back to skill 3 by turn 2 already. So basic concept of this team. Yeah, here come the procs. Here come the procs. There you go. Basic concept of this team is pretty straightforward. Control the Nagong with the Gany. Now, a lot of times when you run the Gany Rica you might be tempted to ventilate the Rica, but in this case, because of the Dominic being on the field, because of the potential for high damage, I focused more of the ventilates onto the Wusa. And you'll see with the volume of procs here, we actually do wind up losing the Wusa at the end. It gets a little bit sketch. But we're going to keep just trying to keep the shields up and keep the healing going through the Wusa and just try to let Rica cycle herself. I think she gets 1 sleep the entire fight. So the Rica never did really cycle herself much. Here comes the Nagong again, going with the procs. And you can see, obviously, we want to get that Dominic off the field. He does have the Soul Protect up for another turn, but I figure at this point we're okay. Because even if he does revive, at least he loses his turn. Now here, of course, I didn't want to wake up the Dominic, and I did want to try and cycle the Rica. We got our 1 sleep there. I think that was the 1 sleep for the fight. Make sure that the Molly can't cleanse the Dominic. That's a big deal for me right there. So the Wusa actually getting more sleeps overall than the Rica. Now, not all of these fights are going to be quite this long, guys, but there are a few bruiser fights in this match, but not all of them will be quite this long. So, Dominic right there, I guess if he had procced, I probably would have been in a fair amount of trouble, especially with his ability to self-heal. And I don't know, I actually feel like this is still a pretty good counter. I feel like I would bring this counter in again because the volume of procs that the Nagong gets, the Dominic didn't go proc crazy, but the Nagong actually just went proc crazy. And so I feel like this is kind of close to worst case scenario. With that said, you guys are going to see some really bad comps from me today. It's a little bit embarrassing, but I recorded the video, so I'm going to show it anyway. So here is the reality. We just got out of Siege Tourney Finals. My entire account is absolutely ripped up. And I do take Interserver Guild War very seriously. I actually enjoy it quite a bit. But it is so much work to go in, organize all your comps, and then realize that you're missing runes on something, back out, and have to reorganize all of your comps again and again and again. Because we can't save progress, it is so frustrating. I spent probably 40 minutes just going in and out of that menu and then searching through a box of 650 monsters, rebuilding all my teams, only to find out that something was missing a rune and having to back out again. And at a certain point, I just kind of got overly frustrated. So, in this fight right here, I'm not going to lie, this tractor has no artifacts. Not bad artifacts, he has no artifacts. I had all my teams loaded up, and then I saw that he had no artifacts, and I was like, I cannot do it again. No artifacts is good enough. Artifacts are overrated. So, guys, if you're watching this video, artifacts are not overrated. They are extremely important. Please put artifacts on your monsters, especially if you're running a Tractor Lala comp. But I got away with it this time. So it was a violent tractor. This is going to be a really slow fight. We can probably skip forward here just a little bit. There's 2 ways you could deal with this fight. You could honestly, one of the ways is to focus the Volantis first because he's a little bit faster to kill. The other way is to focus the Savannah first because she's putting the heavier damage into your tractor. Now, there are some situations, if you notice that it's a damaged Nana, in this case it was not a damaged Nana, but if you notice that it's a damaged Nana, it can also be worth throwing a tractor stun into the Nana on occasion. The reason, by the way, we went through the Savannah right there, you saw how much damage the Savannah just did to tractor. I knew that I had no artifacts on the tractor, and so I wanted to keep the Savannah controlled as much as possible through the stuns. That was basically it. But Volantis is actually just feeding me heals because of the Juno passive. So I wasn't too worried about the Volantis, and from here, once we get the Savannah down the second time, it's just easy, smooth sailing. And there you go, round 2 win. Okay, round 3. This comp This one was fully ruined. I do believe that maybe I made a bad judgment call on this one, because this is not one of those ones that I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't have something else and it wasn't ruined or whatever. I just really thought that this comp would perform a little better than it did. What I will say, though, to be fair, Molong did not have damage plus light on his artifact, and that does make a big difference right there, because the Kinky surviving by 1 HP. So this was another one of those where I didn't want to back out and go change the artifact, and I really should have. Now, I do win here, but it's not hard to envision a world where this had gone bad and I lose. And if it had gone bad and I lose, it would have been pretty much entirely because I did not change my artifact. So, like, it sounds bad for me to say this. If this was in Siege, there's no way that I would have brought that team in without changing the artifact on the Molong. Because it was in an Interserver Guild War, I figured it was going to be okay. And yeah, I almost paid the price on this one. So, again, this sounds bad. It sounds like I'm not taking it seriously. I actually do take the meta really seriously. But with your account just being completely wrecked after tourney finals, yeah, anyway. No more excuses. So we do manage to win this one. From here, you can see, obviously, he's not coming back with no damage. We did get the Kinky out. This team, also, you could make a case that probably the Amelia variant would have been better than the Lima variant. As a matter of fact, a lot of times that's been true. I do use the Lima because I love to use the Lima, but there are times, especially in Siege tournament, where I will, especially in Siege, where I'll actually use the Amelia because I think she tends to be safer in a lot of comps as well. All right, so for round 4, we did an Odin Bethany Bastet cleave. Now this one is interesting. So we go Bethany into the Tessarian, we take the kill. Now right here I'm faced with a decision. Do I go into Geldnir? Do I go into Ophelia? Again, I didn't have the proper artifact on the Odin, and I decided to go into the Geldnir. I probably should have gone into the Ophelia, just to be fair. I probably should have gone into the Ophelia because I know that Geldnir and Ophelia are both built super tanky, and I was a little bit afraid of the Ophelia.
One eternity later.
Anyway, with that said, I do think that was a misplay, and I made the fight closer than I needed to. Had I just gone into the Ophelia with the Odin, I would have been in much better shape. All right, and then for the last match, we have Han, Tiana, and Kraka, so an all-LD team. But knowing that Tiana needs a crazy amount of stats in order to work even on Swift, we can assume that we're going to outspeed 24 lead versus 30, but we're able to put our fastest Swift on the Tiana, and we're just able to chung that team. All right, so round 2, we're fighting Sarah and me. We're going to open with a Ciara, Orion, Perna, and we are going to use, this is a Tank Triana, so we're going Tank Triana, Camilla, and Tessarian. Now, the basic concept of this team right here is you want a defense break and Oblivion the Perna, set it up so that the Camilla can get the kill, and then from there you're in pretty good shape because you get most of the damage off. Landing the slow on the Orion there was kind of gravy. And again, this is a little bit of a longer fight doing the cleanup, so we can skip forward here a little bit. All of the action in this fight was basically that first few seconds. Once the Perna goes down, Ciara just has to keep targeting the Camilla. She's obviously never going to kill the Camilla. And so all the action in this fight is basically in the first couple of seconds. We get the Ciara down. You can also make a case to kill the Orion here because the Orion is what adds most of the RNG. Like if Orion defense breaks the Triana, the Ciara could bomb Triana. But Camilla now heals on her passive. Triana's got the cleanse, and this is, again, a super tank resistance Triana. The resistance probably not mattering so much against Ciara, but the tank does matter. Now, this is my worst comp of all of Interserver Guild War. I made up all those excuses at the start about how my account's not ruined, etc., etc. This is the main comp I was talking about. Other than having not changed a couple of artifacts, which does matter, this is the one truly bad comp I brought in. And it was just because I had nothing ruined to counter this team, and I had already been like, so I can tell you guys, like, when I recorded the Interserver Guild War, it was 1 hour and 6 minutes. So I spent 1 hour and 6 minutes, and it was 16 minutes of fighting and 50 minutes of resetting my teams over and over and over every time I backed out of the menu. So this was the very last team I had to come up with, and I just couldn't bring myself to go build another team. Again, I know there's excuses, but it's just the reality. So we went with Fang Vela Talc. This team will win the majority of the time, but it is super, super risky. If the Nora gets too many provokes, or if the Kinky like had gone S2 right there, this team could have gone really bad. Like, if the Velagel was provoked at that point, this team could have gone really bad. As it was, I think I did lose the Talc, but by the time I lost the Talc, I was actually, the Nora was already off the field, and once the Nora's off the field, the Fang and the Vela can basically handle this 2 monster. So I'm pretty sure the Talc goes down right here. Maybe, maybe not. Actually, yeah, maybe it goes down on the next turn. But again, from this point, like once it's Dominic and Kinky, there's nothing that can be done. But the big risk to this team is that if you don't ever get the Velagel to get a turn, if the Velagel goes into a permanent provoke state, you're probably not going to get enough turns or enough damage to actually win. So this was definitely a weaker comp than I would have preferred to have brought in. All right, for round 3, we did bring in another Gany Rica Wusa. We reset the Coco, and it's over. So Coco Molly Savannah, we reset the Coco, and it doesn't matter. Like, there's not much you can do here anymore. So from this point, I mean, the most that could happen would be a Savannah S2 strip on the Wusa into an S3, into 2 more procs, and then the Savannah doing 1 more S2, and maybe the Wusa could die there. That feels like, not only does it require 3 procs, but it requires a specific sequence of derp into S3 into skill derp, and I would say it's something like 90, it's a 99% counter right here. Now, obviously, if the Coco cannot be reset at that point, like if the Coco is not undestroyed, then the win rate of this team goes down quite a bit. But even so, you're going to have the Wusa shields. There's no attack buff on the enemy team, so the Coco's not going to be able to do that much damage, and you get to split the damage off of those orbs, at least 1 or 2. You get to at least take down 1 or 2 orbs. I know Coco gains some attack bar and passive now, but you'll be able to bring some of the orbs down at least. So, and then again, you're going to have the Wusa shields, and then once the Coco has taken 1 turn, you'll be able to do the reset thing. So from here, we'll skip forward because you can see this one is pretty much well under control. All right, so for round 4, we have got, now this had nothing to do, so this one gets pretty sticky. I'm going to tell you guys, this had nothing to do with me not having monsters ruined. This has everything to do with me underestimating Maya. I had never fit Maya as the Dark Totemis there in the center. I'd never faced Maya before, and I read the kit in advance, and I didn't think that the kit would be quite as impactful as it was, but it was pretty impactful. I guess it was more the despair stuns. It was kind of more the despair stuns that made this a little bit sketch, but the fact that, like, to use the attack bar boost with the Mephisto, I did have to stack totems on the Maya. This got a little bit sketchier than I would have liked, and it's Maya mirroring a lot of that Nora kit, and so this team was probably a little bit riskier than it seemed like on paper. I thought this was going to be a pretty solid counter when I first brought it in. So again, this one, yeah, I mean, it does win, but it's not hard to imagine this losing. So a big part of what put me in bad shape was the Maya being on Despair. Obviously, Maya cannot Vio proc and be on Despair. However, if the Nana was on a damage Violent build, which it may have been, we just didn't see many procs out of the Nana, but if the Nana was on a damage Vio build and had killed my Shran on turn 1, I'd probably lose that. So that is not a counter that I would use again. That Shran Mephisto counter, I would not use that again against that team. Now here, this is Nana Kinky Riley. This is a team I have not been using very much lately. Between the Nana nerf and the Kinky billion nerfs, this team has gotten a little bit riskier over time, but this was definitely a great situation for it. Because you guys can see, even if Molong procs and gets a single kill, you do have the Nana revive, and then you have the big damage from the Kinky. Molong's going to have obviously brought his own health down and so forth. So while that's not a comp that I get to use very often these days, in the right situation, it's still a really strong comp. So anyway, there you guys have it. 10-0 in the Legend Interserver Guild War. Did I deserve 10-0? You can put your thoughts in the comments down below. I would say that I played one risky comp, I made 2 misplays, and I probably brought in 1 comp that was just bad. So I would even say I didn't deserve 10-0. I think I probably got lucky. I don't think I luck sacked. I got lucky that the opponents didn't have crazy RNG, right? So always some room for improvement, always some room for improvement. First step to improving, put runes back on my account and put them back in the right place after a siege turn. Alright guys, on that note, as always, hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.